Podcast. I am your host, Ken Joslin. And as always, we've got another amazing guest for you. I've got my good friend, Jay Young, straight out of Dallas, Texas. Jay is helping investors create cash flow as an oil and gas operator. He's the host of his own podcast, The Jay Young Show, Forbes author, and former part owner of the Texas Rangers. He's an Eagle Scout, also a member of several top elite masterminds around the country. Jay, what's up, my friend?
Man, Ken, I'm blessed to be here, man. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Can't wait to be here. Can't wait to interact with you, man. I love your Christian views. You're wanting to get ahead in life, wanting to do what's right, but also give back. Man, I can't wait. I can't wait for your conference next week.
Dude, we're going to have a blast in Atlanta, bro.
Oh, that's going to be world class. I may need to move. I want to move in with you.
We're gonna have a blast, man. It's gonna be good. Hey, Jay, take just a second to begin the show. I love for our guests to be able to talk to our audience. Tell everybody a little bit about Jay Young, where you're at, what you're doing, what you're involved in, and what God's doing in your life right now, bro.
Hey, great. Well, I'm a Christian. That's number one. Number two, I'm a husband. I'm not the best husband sometimes, and I'm still working on that, but hey, it is what it is. 20 years. And you know what? I mean, in our business, what we do is I've revolutionized how investors can invest in oil and gas. And I wrote a book about it called The Upside of Oil and Gas Investing. Yeah, I appreciate that, Ken. And I wrote this book because, man, I wanted people to know there's a different way to invest in oil and gas besides the traditional model. I put our model to shame. It puts the traditional model to shame. So I wrote the book. I'm going to do audio book pretty soon. I'm coming out with a second version. I came out with this during the pandemic, and everybody was like, freaking out over investments. So, but my great grandfather was in the oil business and had 12 kids out in West Texas. And if you're a man, you're in the oil business. And if you're a woman, you're married to somebody in the oil business. So, man, every time, every night, every weekend, every, Christmas, Easter, we're all talking about the oil business.
Yeah.
So I grew up in this. And unfortunately, for a lot of years when I was in business, I was drilling wells and drilling oil and gas wells, but I didn't put it together like apartments. I didn't put it together like, let's buy an oil field, let's value add and sell. That wasn't our model because nobody else was doing it. So
let's talk. Let me ask you a question real quick. Let me interrupt you for just one second. So you talked about like apartment building. Both of us are 10Xers. We follow Grant. We love Grant Cardone, and Grant's built a portfolio. He's doubled his portfolio since I've known him, kind of syndicating, setting up funds, and then purchasing investment property, apartment complexes, multifamily, those kind of things. And what you did was you kind of took that same model and you brought that into the oil and gas industry, which was different. You just said just a minute ago, you flipped the model on its head as to how people could invest in oil and gas. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but here's what I want to ask you this. Like, what was the process like for you? Because we know this, money exchanges hands when problems are solved.
Mm-hmm.
What was the process in you creating and coming up with that kind of syndication model, which was new in your field?
Yeah. When you go to your CEO meetings or you're at these big mastermind deals like you do all the time, you come back in the office and you freak your staff out, right? Because you got these brand new ideas and you're like, my staff is like, oh my gosh, here comes Jay. What's he going to be? And I said, this is so different. David Moore did apartments. I was on the chairlift with him. I'm sitting there with him. I said, hey, David, how's business? And he said, man, this is 2015. And he said, business is unbelievable. He said, I can't find enough apartment complexes. He said, I got more money coming in on this side. We're doing construction, and he said, there's just more money coming in than I got. And I said, man, it's the opposite for me. I got all this stuff. I don't have any investors, my investors. I said, how do you structure your deals? Now, that's $1 billion question. And I mean, that's $1 billion question for us. And he said, we treat it like apartments. We raise equity. We'll use debt financing to buy the apartments, but increase the value. And he said, well, raise rents or sell the apartments to get clients all their money back, or manage them, refinance. And I thought, man, I got to do this thing in oil and gas. We can buy these small oil fields, increase it enough to where public companies want to come in and purchase. And so I got back and I had a Rice MBA. I had a guy working on a CFA at SMU. And I just sat here and talked about my deal. And they're like, okay, we don't understand. We don't understand how you're going to do it. And we finally talked about it, and man, it worked. We put it together for a year. We put a project together, and in 1 year, we sold a third of the asset, got clients back 130% returns. I mean, bam, sold a third of the asset, 130%. Man, they're extremely happy. And then we built up this asset to $300 million. But it was just a simple process of listening to other people and what they do in their business and going, oh, okay, well, hey, you know what? I can do that in my business. So just taking off a little bit of information, learning about it, and then putting it to work in our business, because I love the oil and gas business, and not people understand the oil business or understand how to drill a well. Man, I just love that kind of stuff.
Let me ask you a question real quick, because we talked, you just mentioned our conference in Atlanta next week. We've got the Create conference. It's my conference I'm putting on. I've got guys like John Maxwell coming in, Jesse Itzler, Dave Meltzer, just a ton of unbelievable people coming in to speak. And one of the things you said was, because I know you're a part of several elite masterminds around the country, when you get in those rooms, and I've got a quote that I actually had printed in my GSD planner. It's at the bottom of the page. It says, get in rooms with people who think bigger than you do. And it's got my name, because I coined that about 1.5 years ago when I first ran into our 5'5" buddy, Grant Cardone. And it was get in rooms with people who think bigger than you do. A lot of people sometimes, Jay, don't even slow down enough or haven't set themselves up to be able to pull away from their business to get in rooms with people like that. The words I heard come out of your mouth just a minute ago, I was sitting in a chairlift with so-and-so, a CEO, and I asked him this question. It literally was a conversation between you and another CEO in a chairlift that helped spark this idea. Talk about the importance of getting in rooms with people who think bigger than you do, and the importance of relationships in how you built your businesses over the past 20, 30 years.
Yeah. So I've been in Tiger 21 for 10 years, and Tigers, you have to have a certain net worth to be able to get in. And a lot of people, I mean, they bust right through that minimum, and they're worth 100 million, 300 million. And I've ran into a lot of these guys and talked to them, and they're not, you know what? I mean, on the surface, they're incredibly smart, but I mean, they're just like me and you, right? Put their pants on the same way. It's like they have problems just like everybody else. But you know what? There's a certain something that they did really, really, really well. And then they said, you know what? I'm going to teach this over and over and over again to somebody to continue doing this because, hey, it worked. Like in our business, we did the same asset and it grew and grew and grew because we did something really well, but we also taught somebody that underneath us, okay, how to do the same thing over and over and over again. And so then we could think about it. But I know, when I'm in Tiger meetings, and I've been in hundreds of Tiger meetings in 10 years, and I've seen portfolio defense. I know exactly how much a lot of these guys are worth, down to the penny, because of a portfolio defense. And that's what I loved about this. I mean, when I heard about Tiger 12 or 13 years ago, they said, we want to go with the portfolio defense of somebody. We don't know exactly how much they're worth, where they're putting their money, how much money are they giving away, how much insurance, how much, how do they give money away, how much trust and all this stuff. And I love that kind of stuff because it's such a learning experience from these guys to find out exactly 100%, like one guy, had his software company for like 10 years and he barely made it to Tiger. I mean, just barely made it to Tiger. His first portfolio defense barely made it to Tiger. And now I saw his portfolio defense 10 years later, and he is, just grown like, he's over 100 million.
What would you say, Jay, on guys that have grown their net worth, like this guy from 10 to 100 million by what would you say is maybe one or two key principles in him being able to?
Persistence, hard work and persistence, but not continue believing in yourself and having your goals, but also setting your goals extremely high. I was sitting here, a few months back, and I was thinking about, okay, so I'm starting this Cardone Ventures, and I'm thinking about, my long-term goals, because they want to talk about personal, professional, and financial goals. And I'm just thinking about it, going, okay, well, what's my professional goals? What's my financial? And I'm thinking, man, we can start and build a $10 billion company. And nobody goes into these things that's worth 10 million or 100 million and says, you know what, I'm just going to kind of hang out and, I'm not going to be very aggressive. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to promote my deal. And if I want to climb a mountain, I'm not just going to walk by one day and go, oh yeah, I think I'll just start scurrying up Mount Everest or something. I mean, they are very visionary, very visionary. And then they take over from a visionary standpoint, but also know what works and gets that working, and then continues the visionary while people are working the system to grow that business. And they're very persistent, and they're all in. I mean, they're all in. So I think I don't know how many points of that is. I mean, visionary, talking about, very goal oriented, but not only just, a $10 billion company, or talking about, how do you do it? Persistence, waking up every day and thinking about it, going, okay, and I've got to do this. I've got to do this. I've got to continue on being persistent, and I've got to be all in 100%.
I love that.
Also, my family does.
Yeah. One of my concepts that I created about a year and a half ago that we talked, is actually watermarked in my planner, is incremental, not monumental. Small daily disciplined decisions over time always equal monumental results. Success cannot escape you if you do the right things every single day. You also said something just a minute ago. You talked about, teaching people. We do this very well, so I'm going to teach people, and we're going to just continue to do that. John Maxwell, who's speaking at our conference next week, twice, John says this, and I heard him say this 20 years ago: you don't reproduce what you know, you reproduce who you are. How do you take, as you said, I come back from one of these masterminds, you're going to come back from our place next week, and you're going to be like, dude, it's going to be like drinking water from a fire hydrant. And you're going to come back, and your team's going to see you. How do you then, as a leader, Jay, take that vision that you have? Because we've got people that watch our podcast, listen to our podcast, and they could be all over the map. Brand new business, just cracked 6 figures, just cracked 7, 8, some even 9 figures, some even looking at at becoming $1 billion company. How do you, because I think this is the key component in being able to scale and duplicating yourself, how do you then take that vision and relay that to your team so they can bring that vision to pass?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's not easy, right? I mean, because I can have one conversation with my number 2 guy, Peter Snell or Chandler Knox or Paul Jerome or Rex Gifford. I can have one conversation with them. And normally if I have one conversation with them and they're kind of like, okay, good, there's one of Jay's ideas. It sounds good, and then they go off and continue doing what they're doing, right? So I've got to make sure that I'm persistent, and I implement that into the daily plan, so when I'm talking to them, I'm like, okay, we're buying this oil field. How much are we going to put it? I mean, so I got to make sure that I'm putting it in front of them every day, and I'm talking about it or at some point in the conversation, because, hey, you know what? I've always loved, and the Jay Young Show has no Christianity in it, because people said, hey, you know what? The Jay Young Show shouldn't have Christianity because there's different religions out there, and there's politics. You shouldn't talk about politics, and you shouldn't talk about Christianity, which we're going to talk about, I know, here in a minute. But yeah, but why, I think the most important thing is not just changing everything over time. It's small bites, right? It's 1% a day or a week.
It's the incremental, not monumental. I just talked about.
Like John Maxwell says, it's small, but it's also, the visionary. It's like, okay, hey, if we're going to do, $30 million this year in sales, and I know that I want to ramp this up, I got to look at that over time, and I got to make sure that I'm holding people accountable, because there's drivers there. there's
Right.
drivers and the reason why we sell products. And if we're off track, I need to make sure we're on track. So just in making sure that everybody's aligned is very important.
You talked about it. You talked about alignment. Alignment's huge. One of the things I teach on a lot, I'm going to talk about it next week at Create, is core values. Talk about, I know you're a man of faith. Talk about how your company core values really dictate how you guys carry yourself on the way from, and I know you guys had a banner month last month, and your goal is going to be 300 million, I believe, in the next 12 months for your company. Talk about how the core values drive you from where you are to that $300 million goal.
Yeah, it's a good question. And, it's tough because, it's tough because, you can sit and think about, we can pray all day long and we can, kind of sit here and kind of go, okay, so, what's the right thing to do? What's the drivers? How can we incorporate that? And every day there's something said about Christianity. Either it's, I'm not saying that we pray all day long or we have 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock. I'm not saying that, which right. There is a time and place for everything, right? But we just kind of make sure that, hey, you know what? Our core values are, we're going to treat people the way we want to be treated. We want to make sure that we're all aligned and that we all know that, hey, you know what, man, there's no question in anybody's mind that hangs around me that, hey, you know what, man, I'm blessed. And I'm a Christian, and I want to make sure that I hang around Christians, because if you don't, it's not a good thing. And I mean, everybody is so
right
crazy about who they hang around with, and they think that, oh, well, I got to hang around this guy because he's a rock star and he's doing things that I really, well, that's good. I appreciate you.
You said something to me earlier on the call. I was telling you about a buddy of mine, Andy Sally, and you were like, dude, all you hang around is rock stars. I said, no, I hang around rock stars who are great individuals, who are great human beings. I don't care if you're a rock star. Like, I literally want to hang around with men and women and entrepreneurs who are authentic, who really understand purpose and significance and things like that. Talk about purpose and significance for you in building this company, Jay.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. We care about our investors, because if you don't care about your investors and you don't care about what they're doing, I mean, they're trusting with $1,500,000 or $200,000. We have $1 million investor. If you don't care about them, that's the most important thing. Am I doing the right thing with their money? Am I a good steward of their money? Am I doing what I should be doing? Am I doing what I say I'm going to do? If I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to buy these 7 assets in these 7 different parts of the country, am I taking their money and I increase the value over time and then looking to sell? That's what I'm doing. And every time I look at a project before we purchase it, like right now, I got an incredible project we're starting up in Wyoming. It's got over 200 locations. The internal rates of returns are 100%. I mean, it is world class, and we're drilling right in between all these vertical wells. So we know the oil's there.
So let me ask you a question. When you get ready to do a promo video for how you guys do this, do you take people's forks and knives and kind of put them on the table and show them what the wells are at? That's how, for those of you guys that don't, it's a little inside joke between Jay and I, because we were at dinner. Yes, he's going to take some pins now. We were at dinner in Dallas, and he's grabbing everybody's forks and knives and he's laying them out on the table, and he's showing me exactly how they do what they do.
I'm just trying to explain it to somebody that doesn't really understand.
Hey, listen, dude, my pastor says it. My pastor says all the time, put cookies on the bottom shelf for me, man. You got to put them on the bottom shelf. So I can understand that.
Absolutely.
We talked about fulfillment. We talked about significance. I wrote a book a couple months ago. It hit #1 on Amazon about the power of significance versus success. Significant leaders help build those around them so they can win, so their team can be successful at levels they've never been successful at. Understanding the Zig Ziglar quote, which is my favorite one: if I help enough people get what they want, eventually I'll get what I want. Successful people who chase success, they use people around them so they can be successful themselves. Right. Talk about significance for you, Jay. I mean, you're former part owner of the Rangers, Forbes author. I did $10 million in revenue last month. Um, talk about significance for you. What does that word significance mean for you?
It's a good thing, and I believe what and thank you, I appreciate that, I'm very blessed. I'm very, very blessed without question, and I've got a lot of great people around me that help me, and I've got a great product for our investors. So it's all putting this together in a way where, you know what, when somebody comes into my office and they say, you know, hey Jay, well, I know you wanted this spreadsheet this way or this way or this way. I said, hey, wait a minute, no. I don't want that for me. I want that for you. Don't you want to see what the production was the last 3 days? Don't you want to see how much money we're spending in here? Because you want to grow the asset. All I'm trying to do is help you with your goals. You know, Natalie Dawson's book, Teamwork, which is an incredible book. And you're welcome, Natalie, for the shout out on that. But, you know, Natalie's book talks about the same thing that I believe in, you know, is that, hey, you don't necessarily work for me. You work for yourself and you're trying to reach your goals. If I can give you enough tools in order for you to hit your goals, then we can all do this together. And that's the same thought that I have with you know, trying to talk to people about, hey, you know what? It's not necessarily that you're walking in here and you walk in here at 9 o'clock, you know, fall down in your chair, you know, and you thump on your computer for a while and then you leave at 5 o'clock. You know, that's not what I want, man. I want people that are motivated, that we're aligned with, to say, hey, you know what? I want to hit my goals.
Well, one of the things I loved about you when we hung out in Dallas last weekend was you are a guy who wants something for people and not from people.
Yeah.
And great leaders are attracted to other great leaders who have that type of an outlook on life. Like, I want something for you. I was able to meet your VP of marketing, Pete Snell, as well, sharp guy. And literally listening to you guys talk back and forth about that concept, that principle of, man, we want something for our team, talking about your personal, professional, and financial goals. I want to help you achieve what you want. You mentioned Natalie's book because Brandon Dawson at Cardone Ventures is a friend of both of ours, and we both respect him very, very much. How do you take, as a leader, do you feel like your number one priority as a CEO and a business owner is to equip your team with what they need to be successful?
Okay, is that a trick question? I'm trying to make sure that's not a trick question. Besides Christianity and making sure that,
right.
So the second, yeah, it is. It really is. You know, because that's what I want to make sure of. Even if we're drilling wells, like right now, we're drilling a well in the Panhandle, or actually we're drilling 2 wells. You know, one well, then the second one back to back. And I'm asking my team, okay, so it's a good example, just kind of a, you know, on a standpoint of what are we going to need to drill these wells? There's going to cost about $7.5 million to drill both wells. Our investors are going to make 25 to 30 million, right, on the upside of that. Mm-hmm. So what do you need to make sure that you know you're going to drill these wells and complete these wells in a fashion of the best way that they can do it, and make sure you put the best people around you, because if you don't have the best team around you drilling and completing wells, you can really mess these things up. It's not easy, but it is easy in the sense of you know, making sure that you have people that have done it, you know, hundreds of times before. You know, so but it is very important to make sure they have everything that they need. I'm giving them the toolbox for them to be successful, because I know that if they're successful, that's going to help raise me to be, you know, you get everything you like, you get anything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's crazy. We talked about that Zig Ziglar quote earlier, which is my favorite. If I help enough people get what they want, eventually I'll get what I want. Jay, talk about your faith and how that is important to you, and how that sliver of faith that you have is literally woven throughout not just your personal life, but into your business life as well.
Yeah, good. Appreciate that. And we go to my youngest daughter goes to a Christian school here in Dallas, Prestonwood Baptist, with and I love the team up there. Mike Buster, you know, Pastor Graham, these guys are world-class people. And I think it's just a great, because they, not only is it a mega church, I mean, there's, I don't know how many members they have. I mean, it's large. But I mean, I feel like I'm a part of the group, and they have smaller groups inside, you know, so I'm a part of it, which I really do like a lot. And I can talk to them, and I wake up in the morning, I think about God, I think about Christianity. I go to bed at night praying right before I go to bed. my wife and I are aligned. I'm aligned with my team members here, and I also reach out and I go to lunch with a lot of the guys that work at Prestonwood, and Pastor Graham and I are going to the game, New York Knicks game in Mavericks. He loves my floor seats.
Yeah,
and,
I bet he does.
We're talking to Julius Randle about helping us with that gym that we're going to build there at Prestonwood. So he's like, hey, let's get on he said, I want to go to the New York Knicks game, because the New York Knicks game, Julius Randle will be there. And he said, maybe we can throw a little, love. He can throw a little love our way in regards to money on building that basketball arena. So, man, you know what? It just feels so much better to be aligned and to be with other people that are Christians, that I don't have to worry about, all of a sudden we're saying, let's go to a strip joint, or let's go over here and let's do this or do that, and just hanging out with the right people.
You
hang around with.
You said a word earlier. You said alignment. You said alignment several times in the first few minutes of our conversation. It really is an alignment thing. Like, I want to be aligned with people who have the same values that I do. I want to be aligned with people that think the same way that I do, not just on the money scale, like, at Tiger, like people that are, trying to go from 10 million in net worth to 100 million or 200 or whatever. But I want to be in alignment with people who believe the same way I believe, that have a faith journey that's very similar to mine as well. At GSD, we talk a lot about, there's three things we do. We help business leaders build confidence, gain clarity, and create community. What would you say to the CEOs, business owners, aspiring entrepreneurs that are out there? What are some ways that you would encourage them to be able to build confidence, to be more confident in who they are as a leader, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be an example, but you have to make sure that you're the top dog, and you're the person that is going to make sure that you're faith driven. You're going to make sure that you're going to drive that. Now, I'm not saying that every successful person does not, do as Christian as I am or you are.
Right.
Because there is a lot of people out there that are mobsters that, that don't really do all this thing for the Lord, that may be successful in their sense, or they have money or whatever the case may be. Because, hey, it's only me. And I think about it, my wife, and I think about, where do we want to go? What are our goals? And how can we achieve our goals? And that's the most important thing. If I can bring a lot more people around that are Christians that I can talk to and we can have fun with, and we're staying in our lane, if you will.
Right.
And we're all growing together as Christians, then, hey, you know what? I'd love for people to come on board to work with us and to be one of our investors and just be aligned, and make sure that they want to participate on the oil and gas programs, and they want to get involved, because, man, it's just such a great, life is too short, way, way too short. I had a buddy a few weeks ago, die from COVID, 41 years old, or 42. I was telling you about that at dinner, man. I mean, golly, are you kidding me, man? We were walking around in Vegas last summer, talking about, our kids playing volleyball and what's the next level for them and all this. I mean, just really, really good friend. And all of a sudden he goes in the hospital, man. He's gone.
Yeah. It puts things in perspective. Like, I know we talked about that at dinner the other day, and I could tell the pain and grief, in your voice, but also I could tell the perspective in your voice. How does that change the way you look at tomorrow and next month and your goals for the next year?
Yeah. You never know, obviously. And you want to think about that dash, right? What's the dash? I was born in 1963, and then I'm going to die sometime. And I want my wife or whoever else is here when I'm gone to look back and say, you know what? He did everything he could. Christian, he took care of his family. He took care of his employees and his investors, things like that. So, man, I mean, if you live every day, because you can't all of a sudden go off one day and go, I'll get back on later on. You got to do it every day. How do you do it every day? And what do you need to do on a daily basis? I mean, what is your pad right in front of you? Yeah. What's it telling you to do today to make sure that you're constantly moving that ball forward in a way where, you're happy and you're reaching your goals, and everybody around you is reaching their goals as well.
I love that. I love that. Jay, tell everybody what's the best way for them to get in contact with you. How and where can they get a copy of your book? And tell them how they can connect with Jay Young.
Yeah, so it's kingoperating.com, kingoperating.com, JayRYoung, not Jay Ewing, not J.R. Ewing, J.R. Young.
I didn't even think about that. There's probably some people just listening to this podcast have no idea what reference you just gave them.
I know. Show Dallas back when JR got shot. But anyway, outside of oil and gas investing, take the assessment on our website and jyoung.com, jyoungshow.com. I mean, just Google J.R. Young and
you'll find my guy. 6'5", 6'6". How tall are you?
No, I'm about 6'4". I'm about 6'4".
Oh, you're taller than that because I know I'm 5'10". You got to be every bit of it. Maybe it was the cowboy boots you had on the other day.
Trying to impress you with my high heels.
I got you, man. Jay, listen, thanks a ton for being with us today, my friend. I can't wait to see you next week. I'm still looking for that ticket order for my guy Pete Snell to come across my desk anytime soon. It's going to be an amazing time. Let me ask you a question. If somebody's out there today and they're on the fence on investing in themselves to come to a conference like Create, why should they do it?
To get better, to be around other people. I mean, you can always, the conference like the GSD is going to have the tools that you need to get ahead. And I love the GSD above everything else because, hey, there's going to be a lot of Christianity there. And you know what? You can follow in the Lord, follow in the Bible. And there's so many different quotes there. And it's not going to be an over the top Christianity. There's going to be Christianity. There's going to be things about physical, about health. And it's also going to be about giving you some tools like with these incredible speakers that he's going to have. So, man, I mean, I am looking forward to it because it's going to help me grow my business and also help me grow Jay Young. Which is what my wife wants me to do is make sure that I'm
Speaking of physical, look at that before and after picture, big boy.
Hey, woo. Man, wow. There you
crazy. Go. 75 pounds, my friend. We got Dr. Gary Brecka coming in to talk. My good friend Russ Yeager, he's a 10Xer, fellow 10Xer. Absolutely crushing it when it comes to fitness. Gary's one of the top biologists in the country, treats a ton of A-listers, including Grant Cardone, Alex Rodriguez, J-Lo, David Beckham, works for the NFL, works for Major League Baseball, works with a ton of people. Gary's coming in on Saturday. Have you met Gary before?
No, I haven't. I look forward to that.
He's one of my favorite humans, man. We were texting back and forth yesterday. He's like, dude, I'm so pumped for your event.
That's awesome.
Gary, yeah, he is. He's phenomenal, dude. Well, dude, listen, thank you, Jay, so much for your time today. I know you're busy. Dude, I can't wait to see you next week, my friend.
Dude, your conference is going to be the most well-balanced Christianity, health, and financial that's going to be the best one in the this year.
Come on, man. Come on,
2022, man. Come on.
Our lineup.
Putting everything in. I love it. I can't wait.
Hey, I appreciate you. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us on the As a Leader Grows podcast, where we are passionate about helping business leaders build confidence, gain clarity, and create community. I'll see you on our next show.